video, so let's get started. Alrighty, so I actually got this idea from, thinking about it, and also a Bleacher Report article that came out many years ago that popped up on a feed of mine, and I guess it was sort of like that's a good idea. So some of their sort of, ideas are going to be helping me pick them. Most of these, or a vast majority of these, are going to be from my own opinion. So if you have your own favorite team, comment down below if you think it's the same, different. If you have one of your own, definitely comment it down below, because obviously you guys would know more about your favorite teams than I would. I'm a casual, I'll take, yada yada yada. But anyways, the first one we're going to be getting into in alphabetical order. Obviously, we have the Atlanta Hawks, and for them, they have them winning the 1958 NBA title, which I guess, yes, winning a title, you could probably argue is going to be every team's biggest moment, but I would love to disagree with this. Obviously, that is a big moment in their history, obviously winning a championship. Obviously, not even all the teams in the NBA have won a title, which is crazy to think about, but Atlanta Hawks won a title in 1958. This was the year that it was led by Bob Pettit, which is one of the top 75 greatest players of all time list. But could you argue it's drafting Dominique Wilkins? I mean, Dominique Wilkins is the best player in that franchise's history. Really helped sort of, I don't want to say carry the franchise, but definitely turn it into maybe a more respectable, more relevant sort of team during a crazy era of the 80s and early 90s. I think maybe drafting Dominique could maybe even be as sort of important to the franchise's history, but obviously a title is a title, so maybe if you're a Hawk fan, you have something, you could sort of chime in on that, but I would probably maybe even say getting Dominique, it would probably be just as important. Then we have the Boston Celtics, and obviously the Celtics, you could say a lot of things, but I think even for myself, I even have to say it's getting Bill Russell. Now, if you don't know, Bill Russell was actually not drafted to the Celtics. They were traded. He was traded to the Celtics. So that's pretty interesting. It says here that the Atlanta Hawks could have, I think, had Bill Russell if they didn't trade him away during the 1956 NBA draft, but traded away to the Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics get Bill Russell, which I think is probably the most important thing. Maybe to even happen in that sort of Boston area, even though they've also had Tom Brady. But man, Bill Russell, man, he sets a culture, even as on the court, off the court. It's so important to not only the NBA game, but so many other things. That's a pretty important person. Again, you could argue getting Larry Bird. You can even argue the most important moment was maybe even having that sort of Bird Magic feud going on during the 1980s. You could even argue that, but I think even before you could even say that stuff, Bill Russell setting sort of the tone for the sort of aura almost of the Boston Celtics, and them being, obviously besides the LA Lakers, the best team, franchise-wise, all-time-wise in NBA history. So I think obviously getting Bill Russell is probably the most important, but you could definitely argue, I think even Larry Bird, getting him, that team, back-to-back MVP, pretty insane. This article is so old that they have the Charlotte Bobcats. The Charlotte Bobcats' most, important moment in their franchise history, which obviously Charlotte Bobcats don't exist anymore, so, I guess I'll do maybe the Hornets. I'll just do the Hornets right now, whatever. I don't care if we're doing this out of order, kind of, but I don't care. Charlotte Hornets. For me, it would probably be getting Kemba Walker, which I don't know if that's really like an important thing, but obviously him being, quite arguably being the best sort of player in their franchise's history, and sort of the importance of him being an all-star, sort of representing that franchise for such a long time, I feel like that's probably a good one. It could even be, idolizing the city and the team for such a long time. I think maybe that if you're a Charlotte Hornets fan, you differ. Let me know, because again, I'm sort of just like I don't know, just trying to think of my own ideas on what it could be. Oh, then I guess we would have the Brooklyn Nets, right? Yeah, we would have the Brooklyn Nets. Okay, so Brooklyn Nets also would be New Jersey Nets. Oh gosh, now that's really tough. Again, if KD, Kyrie, Ben Simmons, if this team could get it done, win a title, easily it would be getting Kevin Durant and Kyrie. That would be a no-duh one. But even if they don't win a championship, I think even getting Kevin Durant on this franchise, because if you're a New Jersey Nets fan, if you were a New Jersey Nets fan, did you ever imagine getting a player such as Kevin Durant? I mean, arguably the best player in the NBA, arguably one of the best players of all time. If I was a fan of the New Jersey team, I think that'd be sort of very much out of my mind, but that's a good one. I don't even know. Maybe making the finals with the Jason Kidd, Vince Carter, Richard Jefferson era. That was a pretty crazy time for New Jersey for sure. And then of course there's Dr. J. But even then, Dr. J, you could even argue is maybe even more of a 76er than a Brooklyn Net. I have no idea. That's maybe an argument for fans over there, but man, it could very much arguably be getting Kevin Durant, and it's been so recent. It's kind of wild to think about that, but again, thinking about even what it means in today's era, very important. One of the best players in the NBA's history, but even in the future, this team could even still win a title this year. They could win a title next year. They could even win a title moving forward because Kyrie, Ben Simmons still super young. If they can get it figured out, this team could still be a pretty crazy squad. So it could even be getting Kevin Durant. Chicago Bulls are up next, and of course, Chicago drafting Michael Jordan. Thankfully, Houston got their hit with Hakeem. Blazers whiffed it by getting Sam Bowie, and then Chicago comes along, takes him, third overall pick. Michael Jordan changing the NBA, even probably the world, if you want to be honest, forever with how he sort of, I don't know, capsulized, whatever you say that word. Sort of all the eyes were on Michael Jordan, and obviously the 6 rings, the GOAT conversation, him being the GOAT, at least in my eyes, he's the greatest player of all time. He's not the best, but he's the greatest. I think that's a kind of an easy one. I couldn't even think about an individual championship that would really be the most important. I think just the entire career of Michael Jordan being a Bull is the most important thing, and obviously that starts with drafting him. So drafting Michael Jordan for sure. Cleveland Cavaliers, again, LeBron James, in my opinion, the best player of all time. He's not the GOAT, but he is the best player of all time, the most talented player of all time, and that's also an easy one. I mean, of course, the 3-1, that could also, that could almost be just as important, but again, you couldn't have that moment without having LeBron James, so I think it starts at drafting LeBron, but if you want to be a more specific thing, it would very much easily be the 3-1 deficit with the Golden State Warriors 2016 finals. I mean, that's still my favorite finals of all time. That might be my favorite basketball game of all time, and again, even if the Warriors won, if Cleveland still won, wouldn't have mattered. It still would have been one of the best games of all time, and pretty insane that it all started with a kid from Akron, LeBron James. Easily that one. We have the Dallas Mavericks. I mean, yes, drafting Dirk Nowitzki is pretty easy, but I just rattled off 2 other ones like that. Maybe if I again want to go more specific, the 2011 NBA Finals, that championship run with Dirk and that squad of just really high IQ, smart, hard hustle players beating, quite honestly, the biggest upset in finals history against that the Heatles, if you want to call them that, the big 3 of LeBron and D-Wade and Chris Bosh. I mean, that one title that Dirk has is worth about 3 or 4 NBA championships, and I love how we all can see that one title just means the world, and I love that so much, and Dirk definitely deserves it, and he gets the praise for that, which I also very much love. So sure, drafting Dirk, yes, but I think more importantly, that title is just, that is one of the most worthful, is that even a word, worthful championships maybe in all sports history. Like, that is an insane title to have. Then we have the Denver Nuggets, and this is kind of tough. Man, do I say Jokic? I don't know. Drafting Jokic, and again, he was a second round player. No one saw it coming, and then now he's one of the best players in NBA right now. He's already an MVP. Again, drafting Isaiah Thomas. I'm trying to not use all that too much. Maybe it would be like completing, like finishing the back-to-back championship run that they had in the early 90s. I feel like that just like really tied a nice big bow over the bad boy Detroit Pistons era. And maybe maybe I'll say that the bad boy era of the Detroit Pistons. I'll probably say that's their best moment, their greatest moment. Definitely would be the bad boy era. And I mean, that entire squad is just so meaningful. How all those players pretty much needed to be there for all those pieces to be plugged in together. Because if even one of those guys was, not of that mindset, it would have collapsed. And it's very lucky that they had all those guys together, and it was very successful because of that. So, of course, it does all start with Isaiah Thomas, but I think that entire era and that back-to-back title run that they had, all the battles with Michael Jordan, I feel like that entire bad boy era is probably their greatest moment, I would say. I don't know if that's kind of cheating, but if I had to be specific, it would be the back-to-back titles. That was pretty insane. The Golden State Warriors, oh my god. So many things. Just Warriors fans are extremely lucky. Go you guys. I guess it would be like the championship run with Kevin Durant. I feel like it could be even just specifically the signing of Kevin Durant would be the most important thing that's ever happened to a franchise, because it seemed like, as soon as that happened, the greatest, well, maybe not the greatest, but the best team talent-wise in NBA history was created right there when KD signed with the Warriors, and it's the most unstoppable team in franchise history. Well, not even franchise history, in maybe sports history. I don't think any team ever could beat that team in like a 7-game series or whatever you want to say about the 90s Bulls or the Big Three Heat. I think no team in NBA history could have stacked up to that team, and it might be the best moment in their franchise history because it was just so important. They could have gone on to win every single championship for the next 5-6 years if they really wanted to. Thankfully they didn't, but they could have if they really wanted to. And it is important. It is probably their greatest sort of achievement. But again, of course, you can say drafting Steph Curry, the 73-9 sort of win. They could even say even their first title in 2015, because that sort of started it all, the whole run that they went on. So you could say a lot of things individually, but man, that signing of Kevin Durant and creating that super team is definitely, in my opinion, the craziest thing that's happened to that franchise. Houston Rockets, I would probably say, yeah, drafting Hakeem Olajuwon. You could say, again, individually, the championship run that they went on. I don't know if any James Harden's fan or even Houston Rockets fans say it would be drafting James Harden. Do people believe James Harden's more important than Hakeem Olajuwon, even better than Hakeem Olajuwon? I don't know, but I would probably say getting Hakeem Olajuwon, him setting the culture of the Houston Rockets franchise. I feel like that's pretty important. Winning 2 titles, is that right? I think you want to, right? Indiana Pacers, I think to be more specific, I think the finals run that they had in the 2000s, I think the 2000s finals run against that Lakers squad, I think that has to be worth a lot. And again, even if, Reggie Miller never won a championship, even getting that team to a finals is like, that's kind of a championship. I'll count that as a ring for Reggie Miller. That's so important to that team and that franchise history. And I don't know, it's just so hard to build such a good team on even then a smaller market than what Indiana is now. At least now a lot of things are more fair. Back then, Jesus, I bet it was really hard to try to get talent there, and drafting talent was a lot harder because it was way more scarce. And man, I mean, good for them to making a final. So again, a more broad one, of course, getting Reggie Miller, but even smaller than that, them going on that finals run. Oh, we got the Clippers next. For the Clippers, in my opinion, I'll probably say getting Chris Paul, because Chris Paul, as soon as he got there, I mean, it changed the culture of the Clippers. It finally made the Clippers into, I don't want to say this in a mean way, but a legit NBA team like him. And then obviously already having Blake Griffin there, who was a great player, DeAndre Jordan, the Lob City starting era, that just really skyrocketed them to not only popularity, but as a legit team and franchise, including, even if you want to be, meme him, Doc Rivers, and him being such a good coach during that time period. And Lakers. Oh my god. Just so many things. The Lakers, again with the Celtics, you can really rattle off a couple things. I would probably say it would be Magic Johnson, acquiring Magic Johnson, drafting Magic Johnson, again sort of setting the tone for the Laker franchise with the Lake Show era of championship runs that they won on in the 80s, and again with the Bird Magic rivalry. I think it's also super important to not only their own history, but NBA history, sports history. I think it's super important, so I probably would say drafting Magic Johnson. Again, trading for Kobe Bryant, you could also argue that, and man, for a lot of you who are Laker fans, during today's era, would probably argue that, and that's a very valid one. Man, even getting Shaq from Orlando, that's a good one, but I'd probably say it all starts from Magic setting the culture, Lake Show, Hollywood, Laker era, really making the purple and gold mean something, so I'll probably say getting Magic Johnson. Next up, Memphis Grizzlies. Do I dare say drafting John Morant? Ooh, do I dare say that already? I don't know, that's also kind of like a Charlotte Hornets one. It was like, dang, we might look back, 5 years from now, like, wow, like, thank God they got this guy, and it changed the franchise history, yada, yada, yada. Maybe it would be the run they went on during that one era of grit and grind Grizzlies basketball, where I think they went to the conference finals, and they almost made it past. I think it was the Thunder, if it was either the Thunder or the Spurs, they didn't make it past. But that grit and grind era, obviously with Marcus Gasol, Mike Conley, Zach Randolph, Tony Allen, I think Rudy Gay was there too. That sort of era, that grit and grind era, is super important on sort of setting the tone of how, the franchise, the city, the team plays basketball in a certain way. And you even see it in today's era of Memphis Grizzlies basketball. It's super tough and rugged, and I love that. So maybe that would be the most important thing. But again, it also might be drafting John Morant, because that guy looks like he's going to be an all-time talent for sure. Miami Heat, I'll probably say Miami Heat is drafting D-Wade, because again, you don't get the Miami Heat big three without already having D-Wade there and attracting LeBron and Chris Bosh and those great players to Miami in the first place. And also, again, that title in 06 against Dirk, that's also a great championship series. If you haven't seen a lot of those games, I highly recommend you do. Those are very fun to watch. But I would probably say, yeah, just drafting D-Wade, super important. You don't get the Miami Big Three without D-Wade. But again, if you want to be more specific, I mean, that title run would be very important. Again, the sort of championship run they went on in 2010, super important. So, yeah, a lot of things you can say. The Milwaukee Bucks, again, drafting Giannis, wow, so original. Of course, I think, oh man, but like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like Kareem, and they had that 1975, I think, NBA championship. No, was it 71? Early 70s, mid 70s. They had a title with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and that's also, again, really great, winning their first championship. Obviously, a GOAT in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar playing for a franchise like that is amazing. But in this era, where it's the most talented basketball era we're ever seeing ever, having a player like Giannis, already back-to-back MVP, title-winning Finals MVP guy, who is so loyal to the franchise, is very rare. And I think, honestly, maybe even more important than a Kareem. I'm not saying all time, but in the franchise's sort of eyes. Again, I'm not a fan of them, so maybe if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, you could differ, but I think it might be more important. And also winning the title last year, super crazy, a lot of fun. So yeah, I think it might actually be, Giannis / the title last year, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, of course, a GOAT. So you could really go either way with that one. The Minnesota Timberwolves, oh my god. That's a tough franchise to talk about. I mean, of course, Kevin Garnett drafting KG, that KG era, maybe even them, I think making that conference finals run that they went on in the 2000s as well was pretty wild. So maybe I can say that. Maybe even KG winning the MVP. Actually, I'll say that. KG winning the MVP, sort of solidifying, again, the Timberwolves having a player that can represent them, being the best player in the NBA during that time period, of course, getting the MVP award to represent that. I think that, in my opinion, again, I don't know if you're a Timberwolves fan, but that might be pretty important. Yeah, I'll always say that. a Southwest Division team with having also the Dallas Mavericks, Spurs, Houston Rockets, and Memphis Grizzlies in the same division, winning it out, having the best record in the division. I like that. Let's say that one because other than that, I mean, having Chris Paul, drafting Chris Paul, super important. But again, it's not like he really set a culture, at least in my opinion. I don't think he really did. He had an impact. He really sort of raised the level of talent, but it's not like he was, the face of that team for a long time. Of course, there's also Anthony Davis, but I'm sure that probably leaves a bad taste in a lot of the franchise, fans' mouths, so maybe not that one. So yeah, I think it may be, I guess that sort of really cool run that they had with Chris Paul and that sort of early 2000s run, that's sort of cool. Or it could be Zion. Maybe he pans out. I don't know. Always injured, but maybe it eventually be Zion. The New York Knicks, 1970 NBA championship, of course. Them having a title, very important. Well, Clyde Frazier and all those guys, amazing team during those 70s years. Yeah, probably that, because again, you haven't been close. They haven't been very close, I should say, since obviously going to the finals before with Patrick Ewing, but having wanted it out, it's pretty bad. Oklahoma City Thunder. I guess that would also technically be the Supersonics. Interesting. And if it would be them, I guess it would technically be like their championship that they won as the Sonics. It was 1979. They won the title against the Wes Unseld, Elvin Hayes-led Washington Bullets team. 1979, Sonics won a title. Sure, I'll say that. Or you could even say drafting Kevin Durant, drafting Russell Westbrook, that era of basketball for them as the actual Oklahoma City Thunder. You could also say that. But I guess winning a title, pretty important. Orlando Magic. Ooh, is it Shaq? Is it Dwight? Oh man. That's a tough question. I mean, of course, Shaq was super important. Led them to a finals, but I mean, Dwight Howard did the same thing. And then they sort of never came back to that, which is kind of sad. And then Orlando, they lost Shaq too, so kind of also sad. I don't know which one to pick, because it could be either or. This one I actually only have like a true answer for. Maybe it would be getting Shaq, because again, that was sort of when the franchise was starting out, sort of trying to build its own name. Having a player like Shaq there to sort of like establish that was amazing. So I think it would be Shaq, but of course Dwight Howard also sort of uplifting that again in the 2000s, also very important. Philadelphia 76ers, at least for me, I'm gonna say the Allen Iverson finals team. I think that team, with Allen Iverson sort of being the underdog for that entire 2000s era, because their best player was a barely 6-foot guard who played and had the biggest heart on the entire, maybe even NBA franchises out there. He was just so much bigger than himself and so much meaningful to not only the NBA basketball game, but basketball everywhere and how it was played and how it was looked upon. Very important. So I think the Allen Iverson era, the finals run that they had, that'd be my own opinion. It could, it could be getting James Harden this year. If they win a title this year, maybe a title next year, could also be very important. Because you also could say, Dr. J and how he sort of uplifted the Sixers during that 80s era, or even Wilt Chamberlain before that. Pretty important, because again, the Warriors I guess that would technically be the Warriors with Philly, because they were the Philadelphia Warriors and then they moved. I guess technically, I don't know, but I'm gonna say Allen Iverson in that finals run that they had. The Phoenix Suns. Man, we might be living in the best era of Phoenix Suns basketball. This team has been crazy the past 2 years. I mean, one of the best, probably the best records we've seen. I think I remember seeing a picture of their record since the bubble season of 2020, and their record is crazy impressive. They are such a well-run, oiled machine right now. But if not that, you could definitely say the Steve Nash back-to-back MVP, Charles Barkley winning MVP there as well. They only did lose to Magic Johnson in the finals, and that's also kind of impressive. Man, it probably has to be the Steve Nash era, right? The Steve Nash era, it's selfish guy averaging like 15 assists a game. That would have been a lot of fun to play on, especially the uppity pace they play. They should have won a title, at least in my opinion. So maybe that may be it, or maybe even getting Chris Paul because it might win them a title. So, Portland Trailblazers. You see behind me the 1977 NBA Championship banner. Again, such a small, maybe one of the smallest markets out there. Portland, Oregon, winning a championship on the national, world stage like that. Pretty impressive, not gonna lie. Also had probably the best player in the NBA at that point, Bill Walton. Very important, very great. As a Portland fan, I hear about it all the time. Very important, but also getting probably, again, arguably the greatest player in franchise history in Damian Lillard, what he sets as a culture, and again, in a crazy era of talented basketball, having Damian Lillard is pretty great. So you could probably argue either or, but even me as a Blazer fan, I would probably say that championship means a lot more because, again, not all franchises have one, and at least maybe the smallest market team in all of the NBA has a championship in Portland, so that's pretty cool. The Kings, I would probably even just say, having, at that time, the Cincinnati Royals, I think that was their name, and Oscar Robertson, I think that's pretty important. Their title that they had in 1951, also very important. So again, not all teams have a title. Even the Kings have a title. Technically they have a title. But also, the Big O, Oscar Robertson, one of the best players in NBA history, very important as well. But the Spurs, man, it could be a lot of things for the Spurs actually, because it could be, the big three of Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. It could be Tim Duncan by himself. It could even be Greg Popovich, a coach. A coach could even be the most important thing to happen to a franchise. And I mean, if you want to go specifically to a moment, it would be the moment that they drafted Tim Duncan, because that just set the standard for them for the next 20 years in the NBA. So if we're talking about the best moment, it would be the drafting of Tim Duncan, 100%. But also, I think Greg Popovich is also a big sort of pointer to how the direction of the Spurs went. So maybe it could even argue being having Greg Popovich. The Toronto Raptors. Oh God, I don't know. Oh, their championship, stupid. The title that they had in 2019, I think it was. Kawhi Leonard, Kyle Lowry finally getting a title there in Toronto, even though they had to, sell their souls and trade DeMar DeRozan, one of the most beloved, players in a franchise's history, maybe. I mean, that would have killed me too, but getting Kawhi Leonard, arguably the best player in the NBA at that time period, probably was worth it. And getting a title as well, beating the unstoppable Warrior team, that's pretty crazy. The Utah Jazz, the Stockton Malone era, for sure, greatest moment. I mean, I guess it could even be losing to Michael Jordan, because they probably would have 2-3 titles if it wasn't for Michael Jordan in that squad. So very tough to sort of have to swallow that pill, but even though it wasn't a successful era during that time, it's definitely the most, they've had, and I think it's very important in also their franchise history. Stockton Malone, for sure. And we have the Washington Wizards. The Wizards also have an NBA championship, so I'm just going to cop out and say their championship in 1978 was Unseld, and I think, Wes Unseld, Elvin Hayes, big man dynamic duo, winning them a title against the Atlanta Hawks, sweeping them in the NBA Finals, 1978. Pretty cool. Other than that, not a lot. So I'll just say that one. So, like I said, a lot of these are just going to be them winning a title, but a lot of these are just, the players they acquired, maybe runs they were on in the finals, specific things here and there. Again, maybe we can have more fun talk down if you want to go more in specific about moments. Then maybe we'll talk about that down in the comments. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Definitely a lot of fun to sort of look back on all the franchise history, and thinking about it was actually pretty tough. But let me know if you know anything else down in the comments. Make sure you like the video. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you again in my next video very, 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 very soon. Alright.